G'day everybody, this is about my homemade battery box. I've watched a lot of videos on YouTube about how people put these together, and lots of guys in the US have had a go, and there's lots of proprietary stuff you can buy on the net. There's the Arc Pack, which is about $450 if you're going to BCF camping or one of those places, but I didn't see much from people in Australia. So I'm here in WA, I go gold prospecting quite a lot, and I thought I'd make myself up a battery pack for when I've got the solar on, and thought I'd go through what I did. It was my first ever attempt, so it's not too bad, but I'm sure I could do better. Anyway, this is just an SCA toolbox that I bought at Super Cheap Auto. Bought it for about $14.95. It's pretty big, as you can see. It's got little spots in the top here for putting bits and pieces into it. The handle goes away, which is nice for when you're packing. Got a few spares in there. So, what have I done to it? Come around this side. So in this side, I bought a dual, I suppose it's a USB plug. So it's got dual USB and a cigarette lighter socket. So I bought that at Autobarn, cost about $20. Around on this side, I've done the same, except these are dual cigarette lighters. So essentially I've got 3 cigarette lighters for 12 volt power and 1 dual USB. Around the front I've got an Anderson plug for connecting in the solar panel. Solar panel's over there. It's a 140 watt fold out panel. I bought some of these cable lugs just to waterproof the pos and neg as it goes into the Anderson plug. Some of these little stick on cable tie holders, which just keeps it nice and neat, and then some double-sided Velcro here so I can plug it in easily and then push it on. Just a couple of bolts with some nuts, a nut on the inside, nut on the outside. So I've terminated on the inside positive and I've terminated negative from the battery, so I can actually use some alligator clamps just to clamp straight onto these to charge into it, or if I want to take direct off these to charge another battery or to jump start a car, I can do that. The SCA box comes with a little spot where you can actually padlock this thing if you want to. So I just open her up. Bit of a dog's breakfast at the moment, but I've packed in stuff in here. So this cable here is just Anderson plug and the connectors for the solar panel. I've got a little multimeter in here. Just makes sure I can keep tabs on the voltage. A few bits and pieces, cable ties, electrician spanner, some red and black cable. I just use 4mm. Anderson plug with some alligator clips, could be handy if I wanted to direct connect onto these front two. Okay, so what have I got in here? I've got a Century 100 amp hour 12 volt deep cycle battery. That was about $220 from Super Cheap Auto. So I've got the heavy duty negative, positive directing onto the battery terminals, hooked up to these bolts that I mentioned earlier. I've got an inline 10 amp fuse on this cigarette lighter, so I can probably change it out to a 15 amp as well if I wanted to. That one's for a fridge. So the other two are just for small power like LED lights, that sort of stuff. And then I've just disconnected the USB because when it's connected, it's just got a little light and it just draws power, and I really couldn't be bothered, so I just pulled that off. I bought about some spare foam for $5. So this foam's actually quite wide, so you crush it down, stuff it in behind it, and it keeps the battery tight and in place. So that's pretty much it. You can see I had to go and buy these wing nuts, and then I've just connected up the negs. So this is the 4 negatives for 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the 5th negative is for the incoming power for the solar panel, which I've just tucked in all around underneath here. Same here, you got the 4 positive and the 5th positive, which is for incoming solar charge. So the other things you can do with this sort of thing is you can stick into your box a small inverter, maybe a 150 watt or 300 watt pure sine wave if you wanted to, but it's a bit squeezy in here. I'd probably go for a larger box, because once you stick these on, fit them off, put your connections on, you probably want more room. Plus with the inverter you might want some air circulation. And you could probably even bring the solar charger into this box as well, rather than having it over on the panel. Mine's actually attached to the back of the panel, but you'll notice the arc pack from the guys who put together that particular box. They've got their inverter, they've got a GPO on the outside, all the fruits in the actual box itself. But I went away from that for my first attempt. Plus I didn't want to overcomplicate it, to be honest with you. I wanted the flexibility to plug in whatever I wanted, wherever I wanted it. So that's my first attempt, and I just used some of these cable ties just to neaten up some of the cable looms, and just stuck these off here to tidy it up. So yeah, it's my first go. I think it's a good bit of kit. I'll go prospecting in another day or two. I'm out for about 6 days. It'll be its first trial out in the bush, and I hope it'll be fine. But I've tested it, it's got 12.54 volts in it, so she's fully charged. It'll be interesting to see how it goes. Alrighty, that's me signing off.